Hi and welcome. Today we're going to talk about aggression. I promised you before that I'm going to talk about aggression, and today we are going to understand how men and women behave differently when it comes to aggression due to biological reasons. Today the long-awaited promised video about aggression is finally done. And I'm happy to be able to show you a little bit about the research that has been done on male and female aggression. Then you can draw your own conclusions and hopefully see males and females in a different light. If you like this video, then please subscribe down below and hit the like button down to your right. But to start, aggressive behavior or aggressive acts are a hot topic today, and media displays it mostly as in a biased way as physical aggression towards women. That in turn is called availability heuristics, which is basically propaganda. However, I will not cover the topic of availability heuristics today, but solely aggressive behavior and strategies used by females and males in today's society. Most of you probably recognize aggression as physical aggression, where someone hits another person in one way or another. But aggression is much more than just physical violence, and that is what I will try and describe today. But in order to do just that, we need to understand the mechanism behind aggression and how scientists have gone about researching aggression. I would like to point out that this is not about blaming one sex over the other, nor is it to prove that one sex is better than the other or worse than the other. It is not in humanity's best interest to blame others, which is, according to science, aggression. This video is to inform and to inform only. What the scientific data shows should be used in a way to make the world a better place than it was yesterday. What does history have to share about aggression in research? Well, the problem with the research of aggression has been, as for the entire field of research in aggression, in that they've measured different things and defined aggression differently throughout time. But in recent time, they have started to measure the same things in order to be able to compare data, and in that way show that there is evidence to support how aggression works in humans. When they started investigating aggression, it was done mainly by males and on male aggression, which probably comes as no surprise. These scientists, as you might expect from that time period, dismissed female aggression altogether. However, in later part of the 20th century, the researchers changed their views and understood that female aggression also needed to be investigated in science, as well as defining what aggression really is. But why do research on female aggression? Are they not simply put good, empathetic, kind, and nurturing human beings? As it turns out, there is in fact something called female aggression. And female aggression is different from open, direct physical aggression, most often done by males. However, that is only true when it comes to Western society. It is not true for other cultures where physical aggression is in fact equally utilized by male and females. It is important to note that the females are physically aggressive towards other females and not towards males. But when they wanted to be aggressive at males, they used other methods like, for example, singing a mocking song that got spread around the island to humiliate the male they were aggressive towards. They also persuaded relatives to kill the male on her behalf. Or she hired an assassin in order not to put herself in immediate physical danger. I want to address the common myth that there is a connection between hormones and aggression in humans. There is some evidence, but not any conclusive evidence. There is data to show both a connection and not. To be perfectly clear about science, we need to understand that no one will ever publish research that did not find a result. What that means is that when a scientist makes a hypothesis and then tests that in their research, then analyze the data to find that there is no evidence to support that sort of hypothesis, they will most likely not get that paper published. However, when a study have been made on animals, they have found a connection between hormones and aggression. It is important to point out that humans have a larger brain and can use verbal language in a plethora of ways than the rest of the animal cannot. Therefore, comparison between humans and the rest of the animal kingdom becomes an inaccurate way of describing aggression in humans. If the data would be conclusive as there is a clear connection between testosterone and aggression, as an example, all boys in adolescence would get physically aggressive since their testosterone levels spike enormously during that time period. But on the contrary, as you might have noticed, the majority of adolescent boys are not physically aggressive. But what is aggression? In order to understand aggression, we need to first define what it is and how humans go about choosing which method of aggression to use. So let us start with describing the different forms that aggression takes in humans. Aggression can be described as proactive, which is best described as deliberate and thought through, as for example, gang violence. Then you have the widely known reactive aggression that you see in when a person reacts emotionally. The person gets triggered and loses control to the emotion and enters what is known as the refractory period. That period then lasts between a fraction of a second up to 4 seconds, and if unlucky, starts to loop. It gets enforced and altered by your interpretation of what happened and what was said, and if you're really unlucky, you might start to import memories from other situations that has nothing to do with the person in front of you in order to enforce the reactive emotion to try and save you, as the brain is trying to do. Or rather, it is your amygdala that is doing the work for you in full automatic mode. So after the emotion has dissipated, your mind will want to retaliate, as the science on aggression entails in this video. That is what emotions do to you, and you can watch my video on the topic after this video to understand how emotions work. But depending on your genetics, experiences and personality, and I'm referring to your level of neuroticism, which is emotional instability under stress, you will react differently in different ways on different occasions and on under different circumstances. Then there is physical and indirect aggression. Physical aggression is defined as kicks, bites, hitting others, fighting with others, and bullying or intimidating others. However, the opposite of that is indirect aggression. An indirect means of aggression is used exactly in order to cover one's harmful intention from the target person. The science also defines aggression as oppositional aggression, which is defined as does not share materials, irritable, disobedient, blames others, and is inconsiderate. The data and results from these studies shows that physical aggression is connected to physical violence later in adult life and serious delinquency, as opposition is connected to theft. The results also show that children who are at highest risk of not learning to regulate physical aggression in early childhood have mothers with a history of antisocial behaviors during their school years, getting out of 9th years of school. They also have mothers who start childbearing years early and who smoke during pregnancy, and parents that have low income and have serious problems living together, sort of neuroticism. They further recommend that preventive interventions should target families with high-risk profiles on these variables. But what method does males and females choose when wanting to be aggressive? Well, humans usually assess how to retaliate in an aggressive way, and scientists argue that humans have evolved to use what is known as the effect danger or cost-benefit ratio to choose which method of aggression to use. The theory is explained by an expression of the subjective estimation of likely consequence of an aggressive act, which basically means that the person assesses the relation between the effect of the intended strategy and the danger involved, whether it's physical, psychological, or social. The goal being to find what strategy will be the most and effective one, and at the same time make it the least dangerous one. The aggressor tries to maximize the effect and to minimize the risk involved in the chosen method of aggression. For example, physical aggression is effective but also very risky. If the aggressor is unsuccessful, the aggressor is likely to hurt him or herself, which is in fact often the case. There is therefore very understandable that physical aggression is often combined with or substituted by verbal and indirect means of aggression, when verbal and social skills develop later in life after 4 years of age. So, indirect aggression might actually have a better effect-danger ratio than actual physical aggression. The better the aggressor is at staying out of the opponent's reach and assessing the opponent's retaliation resources, the better she or he will be at avoiding counterattacks and minimize risk. So, indirect aggression can be highly effective, and if successful, the aggressor will remain unidentified. But how did they investigate indirect aggression, you might ask yourself? Well, scientists investigated female aggressive behaviors in adolescence. By interviewing girls in adolescence, they found that girls describe how their friends and enemies behave when angry with or in conflict with other children. They then described indirect manipulative methods such as gossiping, exchanging friends, trying to win others to one's side, excluding from groups, writing nasty notes, and so on, typical behaviors in conflict with each other. They also found that indirect aggression increased drastically at about the age of 11, especially amongst girls. However, it is noteworthy to point out that in boys, the mean level of physical aggressive behaviors decreased during the late adolescence, to be replaced by mainly verbal, but also indirect means of aggression. They point out that this is most likely due to the increase in social intelligence, which is basically agreeableness in the Big Five personality test, and you can do that test to see if you're agreeable or not. Females are more agreeable than men. When testing for indirect aggression, they came to the conclusion, and the data supports this, that higher levels of social intelligence, agreeableness, is positively correlated with indirect aggression. The data shows that there is a connection between the two. They also found that higher levels of empathy and social intelligence has the opposite effect on indirect aggression. that would suggest that if the person has higher levels of empathy, then he or she would not use indirect aggression towards others. That was true for girls, and higher in 15-year-old girls than 11-year-old ones. However, the same trend was not found for boys. So, is there evidence that that this is only true in humans, or does other humans display indirect aggression? Yes, they have found indirect aggression in subhuman species such as gorillas and chimpanzees. They found that great apes use indirect aggression in a number of ways, such as cannibalistically feeding on competitors' offspring, again against the males in a sexual context simply by refusing sex. When having to compete for food, the females fed on the males' offspring, which is kind of nasty. They also, through the offspring, permitted behaviors that was in favor of the female over other types of behavior that would be positive for others. But what about males and indirect aggression, you might ask? And is there evidence to support that? Yes. There is evidence to support that males do catch up to females in the use of indirect aggression, where they try to conceal their hostile intentions. But they use a more direct way, but still use covert strategies like females. They try to fake their intentions as non-aggressive, but the communication with the target tends to be more direct than that of females. Adult females still use more indirect, socially manipulative strategies than males. Well, I hope this was useful and enlightening information about aggression, that it has opened your eyes on the subject of aggression. And it most certainly gave an answer to a question about indirect aggression that I started to see when I started working in an office back in 1998. You will most likely be able to use this information in raising your children and understanding their behaviors if there are girls or boys in your family. Please don't forget to subscribe down to your right and hit the like button. If you didn't agree with me, write why in the comment section, and I'll see you in the next one, which will be about sexual attraction between men and women and how we differ and how we not differ. Cheers everyone, bye.